Okay, and we're live.
Welcome to our relentless agents and investors from across the country. Today is Thursday, August 29th, 2024, and this is All the Leads Mastermind podcast number 494, which means we are only 6 weeks away from our quincentenary call in mid-October. I know y'all. I thought I'd start off. Of course, I did not have to look that up. It was already part of my vocabulary.
Oh, that was good.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We're looking forward to that. We're going to have a fabulous agenda. As soon as we figure out what it is, we'll let you know. Tim, what do you have this week?
Oh, I just want to know if it's that, if it's anything like a quinceanera. Do I get to like smash a cake into your face or something like that?
They're very similar and they both start with QUIN. Other than that, they're completely different.
I'll ask Pam to shove a cake in your face, then it'll work out
Yes,
great.
you may.
Oh, that's good. I like that though. I even liked hearing you say it, Jim. It was excellent.
Quincentenary, in case anybody was wondering.
That's a good one. That was good. Um, so Aline told us that Andy has good things to tell us, and I do not have, for some reason, Alyssa, I don't have the ability to tell Andy to unmute himself, so you're going to have to do that.
All right, I'm unmuted now.
All right, bud.
Excellent. I do. Aline is not telling any fibs. I do have a good success story to share. I had a rental listing that I posted on Facebook in multiple different groups. I think it was the end of May, and I forgot to delete the listing from one of the groups. And a woman replied to that, last week, 2 weeks ago. So it's been sitting out there stale for a few months. And I told her, I contacted her, said the apartment is not available anymore, but I can help her find another apartment. And then she went in to tell me how she was dealing with probate issues and her fiance is dealing with his own probate issues. They're looking to sell their house, her mother's house that she's living in. So she needs a rental. And then they're looking to buy a house after that. So I said, well, lucky for all of us, I know a thing or two about probate. So I went through the process and talked to her and got all her information. And she broke down in tears a few times on the call, but I was able to walk her through the process of getting the documentation from the courts in our area. I downloaded the will for her fiance so he could take a look at that, walk through that, whole adventure with both of them. And then also we have some appointments set up to go see some apartments for her. She's looking at short-term apartments. And then once they settle the estate, she gets a couple bucks in her pocket. She's going to be buying. So it just kind of fell right in my lap.
That's
great.
fantastic.
Yeah,
That's exactly what building a pillar of your business looks like 100%, because you've got all of the bases touched and multiple opportunities for that. And that's one of the things that, people don't always realize, is that you get to the point where, you're the go-to person that people think of when they think about somebody dealing with probate and real estate. And that's beautiful, man. That's a beautiful story.
Yeah, it was a good feeling after I finished the CPE course 2 days before that, and it just divine intervention, maybe.
Oh,
we shall see.
That's the right answer, man. That's right. That's
Andy,
good.
I was just going to say that. I was just going to say that one thing that struck me in the story you were telling there is that she had a lot of raw emotion there. Sometimes that can manifest itself in anger, but you obviously did a good job connecting with her that she started to cry. She felt comfortable enough with you to kind of let her emotions out. And that's awesome. Kind of amateur psychologist as well as a realtor.
Well, I actually have taken a lot of notes. I spent a lot of time in bars, so I see how the bartenders do it. That's what I model my practice after. But yeah, one of the things was her mother passed last October, which was right around the time my mother passed. So I was able to draw that connection, and and we could share compare notes a little bit through the process. So that was good.
And
See,
did I
now-
hear you
now I
say
can
that
be-
there's, go ahead,
Go ahead.
go ahead, sorry.
No, you go ahead, man.
Did I hear you say there's potential of several transactions there, or is it just several people that you mentioned?
It's several people I mentioned, but there'll be a short-term rental that'll get her into, and then after that, they're looking to buy a house. So
Okay.
the house she's living in now is her mother's house. They already have some agreement with a different real estate agency that's also doing some upgrades to the house. I think it was just a couple months too late on that, but you know, that's the way it goes sometimes.
Yep, perfect.
Great job.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Very,
sharing.
very cool, man. Now I can be jealous of you for more than that luxurious beard. I'm trying to grow mine longer so that I have one to at least, rival you there. I want to be ready by Christmas.
It takes a lot. It's a lot of care and attention you have to spend on the beard.
You use that good, was it beard oil on that thing?
I don't. My secret is herbal essence. That's what I use. I shampoo my beard twice a day. So, which is the added benefit of that is when it rains, my beard smells like coconuts.
Oh, that's way too much information. We're gonna move on now.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. I like that. You can come to my party anytime you want. Hey, Bruce, how you doing, bud?
Great. How's everybody doing? Sorry I was late. Glad to be here.
Doing well. Why don't you maybe I think you're masterying this week, are you not?
Yeah, we're doing mastery for the next 5 weeks on Thursdays. So after this call, we're doing probate mastery for on Thursdays at 2 o'clock for the next 5 weeks. Trying to chop it up a little bit, give people a different way. We've always done it all at once where we just stack them together day after day after day. So I'm trying to give everyone a little bit of a break to implement some of the things that they learn. And today's the kickoff.
Good deal. Good deal. I know you have a good class of people doing that, and we can't recommend it enough that you do this. Bruce is an excellent teacher, an excellent trainer, and I think more importantly, the thing that Bruce instills in people is the confidence to, based on the experience that you have during the class, gives you the confidence to do the things that you need to go do. And I think he's great at doing that. He's the best I've ever seen at doing that. And so I could not recommend it more. We want more and more of you to take advantage of that and do exactly what Andy did. I mean, make this a pillar of your business, and if you're going to do it, it's a very small investment for a great amount of education. I'll tell you a quick story, and then I'll move off of this. But one of the things, and Jim can validate this, that we sort of founded the company on, and I in particular felt this way, is that I don't want to take people's money and not see them being successful. And that applies to training, it applies to leads, it applies to everything. And when we first started the company, one of the things that when we sat around a table and talked about what our objectives were and how we wanted to see this thing function as a company, one of the points that I made at that point was exactly that, which is I don't want to be part of a real estate education and training program that doesn't, in essence, eat its own dog food. We want to make darn sure that we're doing everything we can to make you be successful, not just take your money. And I think Bruce exemplifies that in every way. I think you offer certainly more value than the small investment people make in that. And I think the majority of the people that come out of mastery are people who definitely see way more than the amount of money that they put into it coming back to them in terms of good things. Would you kind of say that's probably true there, Bruce?
Well, it's true. And I think the biggest reason is because your trainer has made all the mistakes that you can avoid. And that's one of the big things is everybody needs to realize when they get into a niche like this is there is more than one path to success. And there are also several different things that you can do that won't work. And so learning not only how to avoid the things that don't work, but also being able to match a path that you're most comfortable to that will lead to success is worth a lot of weight in your business. You could in taking and implementing a class like this, it could be the difference in taking a year to close deals and getting 12 to 20 transactions in the first year. And I'm not promising that everyone's going to rush out and do that. Some people are going to do more. Some people are going to do less. But if you implement, you will do business. And that's the bottom line: is you have to implement. I'll show you what to implement. And if you're willing to learn what to implement and then you're willing to go out and do it, then you're going to have success in this niche.
Well, and I think it's not just the how to do it, but how is it possible to do it, and how do you shape your day, and how do you carve your day up in terms of the things that you should be doing. Most of us have the same problem, and in particular, I think I won't say it's an epidemic in the real estate industry, but most of the people that are in our industry are very, very good at face-to-face. They do a great job with that. They're not great at detail in a lot of cases. And getting organized and running your business like a business, that is such a critical element of anybody's approach to this. And in the old days of the real estate industry, the broker provided everything, and basically you were an agent that came in there and you got leads that came in the front door and you did it the way the broker wanted to do it, and you executed that position. Now, in a lot of cases, while the national companies are saying, well, here's all the wonderful things you can do, you're on your own to learn all that. And I think the real key there is finding a way to implement it in a business-like manner, as opposed to saying, yeah, I know I should be doing all these, but I'm not doing any of them. That's too often the case. And I think one of the things that you're definitely going to learn and need to learn out of this is how to segment your day into the pieces that are going to make you money, not just make you feel good about doing your business. And too often we fall into that trap of, well, I did all these things yesterday that are on my to-do list for, making my business better. And if you do that, like a lot of people, what you're going to end up is finding is you did the things you wanted to do. You didn't do the things you needed to do.
Yeah.
The thing that make you felt better, feel good about yourself, and knocked them off your to-do list. And bottom line, you didn't move the ball at all.
I was on a coaching call yesterday with someone who uh, who gave me permission to share this. Okay, that's the first thing. Gave me permission to share. But this individual goes out and skip traces and digs and looks at obituaries and double checks phone numbers and spends 10 or 15 minutes digging through tax records on every single lead, all the way through his lead list, and puts 20, 30 hours in a week into being busy, looking people up and trying to figure out what their story is. And then at the end of the week, might make 2 calls. And this is an example of someone that's very, very busy, has a busy life and a busy business with no production. And when we dig into it, it's a matter of, hey, I'm a little bit worried about implementing. And I'd rather research and I'd rather double check the data and I'd rather send an email out than actually do some of the hard work of doing the business. And a lot of people look at all these things that are pretty cool to do. Guess what? I do extra skip tracing, and occasionally I look at tax records, and I spend time putting fancy emails together and my 12th letter in a campaign together and all those things. I do those things. But that's not where I started. And there are a lot of successful people on this call who are doing those advanced things, but they're successful because that's not where they started. They started at the point of a relationship with someone that was going through probate. And then as their business grew and as they put systems in place, then they started adding some of the advanced things. So I just want to encourage everyone here, don't let yourself get stuck in the analysis and the perpetual learning mode and the perpetual research mode. Go out and do some very basic things. If you mess up a little bit, you mess up a little bit. There's nothing wrong with it. I would go so far as to say, not only is there nothing wrong with it, but you have to mess up. You have to. one of the reasons that I'm here and that I train this is because I've messed up a lot, a lot. And if you want to get to a point where you can teach this and you become your area's expert or you become the nationwide expert, you're going to have to fight me for it. But if you want to get to the point where you're going to become the nationwide expert, it means that you're going to go out and you're going to make some mistakes. And you're going to make some mistakes doing some very basic things at first. And that's okay, because that's the price that you pay to get some success in this space.
Yep. Just some observations on things both of you said, if I may. We don't, and please raise your hands, guys. We don't want to monopolize this call. Tim, one thing you said from day one, you were committed to making sure that our people have success with the leads. And I know, without mentioning names, that came as a result of working with a investor for years that did exactly the opposite. So a lot of times we have to experience both extremes to end up somewhere in the middle. And one thing that you said, Bruce, I talked about last week about my coaching career was, or my real estate career really took off when my coach taught me how to treat it like a business. Back then, the coaches had these magic words that you said to people, and the magic words always worked. And the reason they worked is because it gave people confidence that they were saying the magic words. I mean, so it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy, but and one of the reasons is the coaches did not do what you did, Bruce. They didn't really, they were using just psychology, and NLP and language skills. They hadn't gone out and experienced the failure that you've experienced. And as long as we're being nice to you this week, I have seen hundreds of coaches over the years. And the reason I always say that you're the absolute best, you're not teaching one method, one system, one set of words. You're teaching on inflection points and communication skills. And that will always be infinitely more successful than trying to use the same words on everybody. And I haven't seen another coaching company that does that, because it's the hard way to do it. It's not the easy way, but it's absolutely the most effective. And that's the last time I'll be nice to you this year. So
appreciate that.
You're welcome.
And I don't like it when you're nice to me, so I'm glad it's the last time you'll be nice.
You're suspicious, right? Exactly.
Yeah. I'd be scared about that too. Every time he's nice to me, I'm like, oh no. Yeah. Check the wallet real quick. Just real quick, I know Alyssa put this into the chat as well, but as we say always, this call is about you, and so we want to hear from you. I ask Alyssa if you would to unmute Anita, and I see that TJ has raised his hand, and you're going to need to unmute him. For some reason, my ability to unmute has been taken away from me. I must have been bad or something. So will you please unmute, ask TJ to unmute, and let's hear from him. And then I want to do the same thing with, I think it's Kanita. TJ, what's up, man?
Hey, so well, this has been a great conversation. To start off, has teed up my question perfectly. I been getting leads for a while, and confession, in the first couple of months, I didn't do a ton of calling. I sent some letters out and whatnot. So my question is, how do I approach those old leads that are 7, 8, 9 months old? Like, I think there's some gold in there. But like calling them now and being like, oh, hey, yeah, you had a probate, almost a year ago, and this is the first time I'm reaching out to you. Like what's the best way to kind of approach that?
I can answer to that a little bit, TJ, is thank you for your honesty. And to tag on to what Bruce was saying, a lot of the times when people are scrubbing and scrubbing, so I tell the coaching clients that I'm working with is that I call that fixing to get ready to. Right? People are just like, I'm going to move my stuff in my office around and put flowers and this, and it's all the fixing to get ready to not pick up the phone, because it's a touching subject. It's a challenging call to make. And at the same time, the people that we're calling need our help more than anybody else. And in the real estate industry, somebody going through a divorce or somebody going through probate. They're the ones that need our help the most. So I think in terms of going back to the people that are in your historical, the older leads, I would really approach it the same way as I would call the first leads, because genuinely there's a lot of people that don't do something right away. They're going through the process. They may have not even gotten their letters of testamentary. They may not be that far along. So if they're 6 months into it, it could be that there is still the estate, the property that they're dealing with. So, I mean, I would always work with your first leads first. And then if you have time, then go back to the ones that are historical.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I like now that you get used to it and you kind of get into a rhythm, and then it's those first couple of months that I was like still when I really started focusing on probate as a niche. Those are the leads that kind of fell through the cracks a little bit as I was just before fixing, as they say in the South.
Fixing to get ready. I mean, I'm not even from the South, but I love that because I think it says so much. I genuinely do. Yeah. And I think the thing to tackle is set a scheduled amount of time that you're going to call every day and be consistent, because consistency over time, and then it's just time on task.
Yeah.
And you're in a habit of doing it.
Absolutely. My question, I guess, specifically is like, how do you open it a different way? Or is it am I using the same kind of script that I'm using when I'm calling a lead that I just get this month?
Let me ask you a question
I mean?
before we jump into the answer. So do you think these are people that you had sent a letter to before?
Oh yeah, definitely. They've probably gotten a minimum of 4 letters.
Okay, well then your answer is easy at that point.
Okay.
Basically, you can say, hey, and you can base it on how long ago it was, but you can certainly say, hey, several months ago, I know that you're in probate, you're dealing with that, and I'd sent you a few letters, didn't hear back from you, and I always circle back because I'm a professional and I keep track of my business, and so now I thought I'd circle back to you and kind of try to find out where you are in that, and you've got basically a warm open because they might remember at some point if your letters were something that they saw and you did it consistently, they probably remember getting the letters from you. And you can say, I'm the guy that sent you those letters that came out in the XYZ colored envelope and just wanted to, go back to you and let you see that. And I know Jim's got his hand up to speak as well. And I'll also tell you that that's one of the things that we have done as a group is gone back and we've taken some sample leads from people who, they're 6 and 12 months old. Every single time we do it, there's gold in them. And you just kind of think about that from a reality standpoint, that a lot of times when something goes to probate, there's an immediate need. Something's got to happen. The breadwinner passed away. The caregiver passed away. It created an immediate financial hole. And the only way out of that was to sell that property. So that one, those are probably, that transaction has probably happened by then and gotten cleaned out. Flip side of that is there's a lot of cases where there's not that pressure. And there's the other side of the pressure, which is that the house is filled up with the personal possessions of the person that passed away, and it'll sit for months and they won't do anything with it at all. There's no sense of urgency. There aren't heirs, panting to get the money. So they just don't get in a big hurry. And the unfortunate thing about what happens in those cases is deferred maintenance happens. People, there's a lot of things that go on during that period. So you kind of need to think through all of those things before you call them as you're following up on it. Has any one of you got some questions? If there is a house that's involved and gets going, has, been keeping up with the maintenance and all that? How's it going? I mean, establish a relationship. You just need one question to start the relationship. And once you're in dialogue, you don't need a script after that. You just smile and do your normal thing, which is to have a conversation and make a friend, and you'll rock on, bud.
Cool.
Make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know. I'm probably overthinking it as far as like, because they were the first leads that I got when I first started focusing on probate, and they're so old. So it's like, I know that like old database leads from buyers and stuff, I know there's gold in that. So there's gold in any old leads. I guess it's just the way to approach it.
Jim, do you want to go first, or do you Yeah, go for it, Jim.
Yeah, I was going to first of all agree with what Tim said. If you did send a letter, acknowledge it. I've mentioned before, I never wanted to compete with with our subscribers. So when I was flipping property, I haven't done it in a couple of years. I've been too busy with this. But when I was flipping property, whenever I wanted a deal, I'd go back with my 1 year plus leads, and I would just be very direct with them because it's not a tender subject anymore. I used to just say, "Hey, I noticed about a year ago you inherited this property. I'm just curious. Did you ever do anything with it?" And they would answer me, or I'd say, "Hey, I know it's about a year ago you were appointed the executive of the state. Your phone was probably ringing off the hook then, and I just wanted to call and see if you ever did anything with it." And they all, "Oh yeah, you're right. The phone was ringing off the hook." And the answers I would get is, "Yeah, you're right. Phone was ringing off the hook. You're the only one that's called me in the last 9 months." And now I've either sold the property or now I'm finally ready to do something. I was amazed how many people said that now they're finally ready to do something and nobody else had contacted them for months and months. So I don't think there's anything wrong with the direct approach they're referencing to real estate and get right to it. They won't be offended. And you don't have to apologize for not sending them a letter. They probably were, or calling them, they were probably overwhelmed back then and they're not now.
That's a good
As a
angle.
general rule of thumb, what do you say for a newer lead? How do you open that call?
Just if I establish that they are the executor or the administrator, it's just that I do the concierge approach. It's just like, hey, I have a company, Probate Property Advisors, and I help families that are going through the process with all of mostly their real estate side of the things, but also we have a network of professionals that help the same folks I do, and I'm just reaching out to see if there's anything I can help you with, or if you have any questions at this time.
Yep.
Basically like that.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
So yes, different approach. I agree with kind of the approaches that you've been given so far, but I wasn't sure you'd asked if it should be a different approach, and I didn't know what different might look like. So yes, so you're gonna probably call and say, hey, first off, is I'm not 100% sure that I have the right person. I'm looking for TJ McGraw that might have been either currently the executor or administrator for the estate of Jane Doe. But I don't know if I have the right TJ. Is this the right TJ? Yes. TJ, I was calling about a house at 123 Main Street. You probably don't remember, but back half a year ago, I sent you a letter. I wouldn't say several letters. I would just say I sent you a letter.
Yeah.
It was offering to help through probate. I imagine you've gotten through the whole estate at this point. I was wondering if you guys ended up selling or decided to keep that property and let them go. Okay. And then start to look for loose threads and start to work toward an appointment if it looks like it might be something that they're leaning into selling at some point. I would absolutely ask if they don't say it in their opening statement, in their opening comments, I would absolutely ask if it's occupied or vacant. And I may not ask, I might do something more along the lines of, hey, I imagine you have a family member living there. Just take a guess and see if they correct you. Oh, we have tenants. No, it's empty, that kind of thing. And then start to use that angle to go toward an appointment. There's plenty of people. I don't know what the percentage is. I'm just going to take a stab at it. They're probably a year in, 10 months in. There's probably still 10 or 15% of those that are going to sell out of a list that haven't sold yet. So you've got plenty of opportunity. Clearly, you're going to be catching people pretty late too. You're just looking for that 10% would be my imagination.
And the other thing, just real quick, and Robin, I ask you to unmute and we'll get to you in just 1 second. The other thing is make sure that you ask some leading questions that have to do with that, because realize that one of the biggest factors in that house not getting on the market, if it's been that long, assuming they settle everything out, and they've kind of dealt with maybe the logistical issues of probate, the legal issues of probate, the house is probably still full of somebody else's possessions. And one of the things, you talked about the fact you built a business to do that. you may
Mhm.
want to ask that kind of question. Is the house ready to sell? Is it still filled with the possessions of, Joe or Sally, whoever the decedent is? Show that you've done your homework, who owned the house, all that sort of stuff. And, has anything been done with that? If not, you can certainly help with that. Your estate sale partner can take care of that, and the clean out crew can help as well. And that's often the thing that gets people moving. And if they haven't done it yet, they're stuck. And so you want to try to get them moving past that if you can. Any kind of leading question like that, once you get into that conversation, you've got it handled after that. Okay?
Cool. Thank you.
All right, man. Great. Robin.
PJ, I just wanted to share with you, this was not a probate issue, but years ago I had asked for bids to build this great big deck on the back of my house. And I had several people come bid. Right after that, I got pneumonia, and it took months for me to be well. The person that got my money and got my contract was a follow-up call. I was an old lead, like the ones you're talking about, and the approach he used was, I wanted to call and check in. I hadn't heard from you in a while. I'm in the process of cleaning up all of my files, and I'm going back through some of the people that I didn't have respond. And I wanted to make sure you got everything taken care of so I can close your file. And I fell hook, line, and sinker, and that's who I hired. So and the other thing I was going to share with you is, this morning I got a call, and guys, I'm brand new. This is my first Probate Mastermind podcast. So I appreciate the venue and being able to, help or contribute or learn from this group. I got a call that I haven't even started getting leads yet. They don't even come until next month. So I'm real excited about it. But I got a call this morning from someone that said, my grandmother died 2 years ago. My mother inherited the house. Now we don't know what to do. Can you help her? And I said, absolutely, I can help her. So that was a lead that, if I had been buying leads, was 2 years old, and they're just now starting to do something about the house. So I really believe in all businesses, but specifically in this, that's so, tied up in legal stuff, legal matters, that there's probably a lot of gold in those old leads. So I would strongly encourage you to say, hey, I'm just going through my old files, trying to clean out. I hadn't heard back from you. I was just wondering if you got that settled, if there's anything you still need, if it's ongoing, and just, be an interested party, because everyone wants someone to listen to them. So maybe that'll help. I hope it does.
Oh, it does. We've always said over and over and over again that probate leads season extremely well. And we've talked about, just like what you said, a lot of the reasons are that it's like, there's not that, if it didn't happen early on, then oftentimes there's just not that immediate pressure to get it done. And so they're just going to let it sit there because it's an aggravation. They don't have time to do it. Most people who are the personal representative or even the heirs, they're working. They're in full-time jobs. They don't have time to go work on a house over the weekend to get it sold or get it ready to get sold and all that. They need help. They need what you can provide. And, if you can help them do that, you're a savior for them. That's what we always say, is that, you really are offering a service, probably more so than any other kind of real estate you could be in. This is the one situation where the decision to sell didn't come from the people that own the property. It came because of an event. And that event is a life-changing experience for everybody. So when that happens, then you just need to be able to reflect to that. And the fact that they season extremely well has just been proven over and over again. And, Jim, I always use Jim as an example, because literally we went in to do exactly that. We definitely looked at them to see how well they season and all of that. So it's important to realize that's the case. And we know that it does do that very well. And I appreciate what you said. That's a great testimonial to it, Robin, for sure.
And
Hey,
this whole conversation just reminded me of a truism. A good way to remember this, we used to tell our coaching clients, it's not always the first person that reaches them. It's the first person that reaches them after they've made the decision that they're ready to do something. And that could be a month, or it could be 2 years from now. And if you don't keep calling, you don't if you do keep calling, you're going to have the best chance of being that first person to reach them. So great story. Thank you.
I would clarify one small thing. It's the first person that they remember after they make the decision to do something. That may be the first person that they spoke with 5 months ago. It may be the first person they talked to the day that it's an urgency. It may be the third person. It's the first person they remember. So your job is not only to establish that initial conversation, but to make sure that you stay top of mind. And you can't do that by saying, okay, you don't need anything right now. Bye. I'll call back in 3 months, because they're going to forget that.
And Bruce, I don't think we're disagreeing, because a lot of times they don't remember anybody. So it is the first person.
True.
They call.
Yep.
So they're both true. Yeah.
Well, they remember me, but
other than Bruce, yes, they don't remember anybody else. I forgot that. Yes.
I'm being kind of arrogant today. I need to dial it back.
Today?
Your false modesty is showing. That's good. I think it's also important to realize that we also put specific letters together to talk about 6 months and 12 months in, where it's been 12 months, and there's a specific letter that we have available that we send out for people to do exactly that, to talk about, hey, I did something 12 months ago, and or 6 months ago, or whatever, that talk to that seasoning issue. So those are important. Hey, Evan.
Hey, how's it going?
Bud, tell us about your deal.
Yeah, I just wanted to share a success story. Yeah, it's my first deal that I got done through all the leads. And it was a lady on my recent batch of leads. She had inherited a property from her mother, and the ceiling in the back bedroom was falling in because there was a flat roof on this portion of the house, and she didn't have the money to fix it. So we were able to get in there, and she had a lot of deferred maintenance. And so talking through all her issues and trying to figure out what would be best, whether she stays there and we help her, get with a roofer, or sell her property. She ended up deciding she wanted to sell the property, and we were able to get the deal done. And I ended up signing the contract to another investor in the area and made 18 grand.
Wow, that's
Awesome,
great.
man.
Yeah, so I'm very excited, super excited. So just subscribe for the divorcee leads, and I'm ready to get rocking and rolling. Just started sending out some letters and postcards, and so using all the services.
That's great. That's great. That's what we like to hear. We believe in what we do, and we love it when you all back it up.
Amen. Thanks.
You do. Thank you very much. Appreciate you taking the time to be on today and be with us. That's great, man. Thank you. Okay. Hey, Bruce, I have a quick question for you. You're obviously doing mastery after this. Do people still have time to get involved with mastery?
Yeah, a short amount of time. Basically, it means you need to rush over and jump on it now.
Right. Register now.
Now. And when you do, you'll get, so if you jump into Mastery, it's $3.99. When you do that, you're going to get an invitation and access to our on-demand version of Mastery. If we see that come in, like here in the next couple of minutes, you'll either email support@probatemastery.com, or we'll be watching. It's just sometimes the emails get a little bit hung up, so it's probably best to sign up and then email support@Probate Mastery, and we'll send you a Zoom link to the live classes. It's just going to be every week, every Thursday for the next 5 weeks, maybe 6 weeks. So normally I'm just doing it 5 days in a row and I'm running out of time. And so considering it's just 1 day a week, I'll probably be able to add a little bit extra content in over the next few weeks. You do that on alltheleads.com under the training menu, and Alyssa just posted a link in chat.
Great. Yeah, I just didn't want to miss the opportunity. We talk about it, and then sometimes we forget to cross the T's and dot the I's. Skip asked a question, are we doing training on divorce? And here's the reality with what we've done with that. By the same token, we did the same thing with probate. So what we've been doing with divorce is quietly getting our act together on the backside of that. And we will be offering a training course on divorce, the same as we're doing with probate. And the biggest issue in terms of dealing with divorce that's significantly different than dealing with probate is obviously, well, two things. First, you got two people in the game. That's for starters. But the other side of that is that you also have a situation where you know that in most cases, since we give it to you on filing, the emotions are pretty raw in a divorce. And so you've got to have the ability to effectively present yourself in such a way that you're not instantly putting people off. Nothing could be worse than calling, the one or the other parties to divorce and say, "Hey, I see you're getting divorced. You're going to sell that house?" So part of what we do is we talk a good bit about how to do that and all of that. So I think you're going to see something during the month of September that we'll be putting out a foundations aspect of it. And then hopefully around the end of September, we'll be moving more towards a more mastery oriented approach to it as well, because we do definitely intend to give you some training on it. But I think the other side of that is that as an agent or an investor, most of the conversation that you're going to have is a pretty straightforward conversation. The person that you're talking to uh, definitely does have the ability to sell the house, or at least has the ability to affect that transaction. And so I think that's kind of the point, that they are, they at least own a significant interest in it and can help move that forward, as opposed to the PR. They have the ability to sell it, but they're also responsible to the heirs and all the rest of that. So, those are the two big issues, and those are the things that we're going to be working in our training to get that done. Kenita, I'm sorry, Steve, you had your hand up, buddy. What were you going to say?
So Tim, tying into that, one of the things I've had with new subscribers for divorce leads, setting up coaching calls, I've been very clear with them. Hey, I'm not an expert in divorce. I went through an hour orientation with Liz Becker. I give them the website for the National Association for Divorce Professionals, as well as her training. And I recommend that, just in terms of, you likely need this tool to effectively work these leads. Now, people have varying experiences. In fact, most of the people I speak to could probably coach me. They've got vast real estate experience compared to me. But my point to them is, if we're going to set you up for success, to be upfront with you, when Liz gave her 1 hour orientation to us, when she gave us that quiz, I realized I was in a Zoom room with a bunch of other folks who had a lot more real estate experience than me. I found that, man, I thought I had this down, but I didn't. I was way off. So I always say, please do your due diligence. Here's the information. You decide if you want to go. It is a relationship that ATL seeks to nurture with Liz. You get a 20% off if you list that you're an ATL subscriber, and you can be fully trained. And a bunch of the folks I've coached, like within a month, have gotten the certified divorce specialist certification working through Liz. So I'm grateful that maybe we can get a little bit more training so I can speak from a greater position of knowledge. But I know Liz right now, there's a lot of people taking advantage of course, and she's the one. I mean, she's been doing it for 20 years.
Yeah, she has. I think the issue that I would also say with that, Steve, is that yes, she does that. And if you already are, into that, and you've already done some of that, that's fine. I think part of the challenge with that is that we are a bit more pragmatic. She is very much and it's not that we're at cross purposes, but I think she wants to focus a tremendous amount of energy on the relationship management aspect of that. And what I mean by that is the relationship between the two people, and potentially if you need to be a mediator, you can do that, and be sensitive to all of those issues. Those are important things to go do. From our standpoint, as the real estate side of that, we have to be a bit more pragmatic and a bit more I won't say aggressive because that's not the right word to use, but expeditious, I think would be a good way to look at it. So I think there's a middle ground between I think learning what she has to offer is important. I think we also though have an obligation, and we're going to be offering the ability to certainly be sympathetic to that and have a mindful approach to doing it, but cut to the chase, and get to the point where if there is property to move, how can I help? What can I do
Right.
to get that done? And, we have some very pragmatic things that we need to make sure that and Kanita, I'm going to answer your question in a second based on kind of what we're talking about here. That one of the biggest challenges in terms of people in a divorcing situation is they may want to, either one or both of them may want to go buy a house now, if they're going to have to sell a house. Well, up until probably 24 months ago, there were very, very few, if any, lenders who would lend without taking that current debt into consideration. And now there are multiple lenders who are out there that basically will lend and not take the existing debt load into consideration because of the assumption that the house is going to get sold.
Right.
Now we're in a market that lends itself well to that right now. If the market changes and that house, if the economy changes, then that house might not move quite so quickly. We may find they becoming a little bit less anxious to go do that. But for now, making sure that you have a lender who can in fact lend, and you have that relationship in your pocket, a lender who will in fact lend and not take that debt load into consideration is important. So those are the kinds of things that I think we need to be offering. And I realize I'm rambling a little bit, but those are not necessarily the things that are going to come out of the approach that Liz is doing. Liz does a tremendous job of sensitizing you to all of the aspects of it, and we're going to try to be a little more pragmatic. That make sense?
Yeah, Tim. So one of the things I try to do is I just offer it to them for them to do their own due diligence to decide if it's right for them, knowing that, hey, there's no incentive for me as a coach. It's just, look, here's what's out there. If I were to do this, this is what I would do because I don't have those skills. That's me. And I offer it to them to decide how they want to proceed.
Come back to you in just a second. I want to just make sure we're getting towards the top of the hour, and I want to talk to Kanita's question, and then I'll come back to you. Okay.
Sure.
So Kanita had asked, and Kanita, I understand that you've got maybe a new baby and you can't do this yourself online, so I'll go ahead and answer your question. You were talking with somebody and you left a voicemail on their answering machine, and the answering machine said that if you wanted a quicker response, you should text her. That's becoming more and more a factor, that people would rather get a text than listen to their answering machine and do all that. And I can certainly tell you as an old geezer that every time I call my kids and leave a message, they'll call me back and I'll say, well, I left you a big long voice message. Oh, I didn't hear that. What do you want? It's always that way. And so I've started learning that it's a waste of time now to do that. And I'll just send them a text, either says call me or I'll tell them what I want. And it works out better for me. So to your question was, do you leave a message and, say something about, I know you're getting a divorce. How do you want to do that? I think that's not necessarily something, you certainly don't necessarily want to leave that on their voicemail. And at that point, I'm going to kind of fall back to Bruce on what Bruce usually says at that point, which is that, you turn it into more of a general purpose. I'm looking at property in the area and I see that you may be the owner of 123 Elm Street. If you've got any interest in selling the house. And Bruce, you say that better than I do. Take that one on, and Jim, I'll get back to you right after that.
That was basically it. You almost nailed it. Hey, I don't know if I've got the right person here. I was trying to find a Kanita, and Kanita, I'm not looking at your last name right now, so I'm trying to find a Kanita, a last name. I like I said, I really have no idea if I have the right person here. Is this Kanita by any chance? Yeah, Kanita, there's a few of you in the area. I don't know if you're the owner of 123 Main Street. Are you? You are? Listen, The only thing I'm calling for is I work in the real estate space and I have some clients, and I don't know if you have clients or not, but if you do, you could say I have some, I represent a buyer, or I have some clients that are looking for a property in the area, and we haven't been able to find what they're looking for on the market. I was wondering if there might be any shot that you guys might be open to an offer if we were able to bring you one. Okay, that's an example of how to do that. There's
Right.
a couple of
And at
different
that point,
ways.
we're done. They'll either tell you, well, yeah, except for the fact that, you know, my miserable spouse is making it extremely difficult, and they'll go into the divorce story, or not. And so, but you started the conversation at that point. But all you should really leave on a voicemail, you know, you don't want to leave the, I know
Oh,
you're
was that a
getting
voicemail or was that a voice to voice? Sorry. If it was voice
it
to
was
voice,
text, actually a text.
I messed up.
That's
Yeah.
okay. It's the same answer. It's the same answer. It's exactly that, which is, hey, you know, as succinctly as possible. You know, I'm looking for property in the area, and I see you're the owner of 123 Elm Street. You know, any interest in a discussion about selling the property? And you might want to say something about, I'll be calling you back. You know, I see you weren't available here. I'll try and give you a buzz this evening, and maybe we can talk a little bit about that. Give yourself the opening to call back again and take another shot at it. That's the only thing I'd add to what Bruce said in terms of leaving it as a text. Jimmy, what were you going to say, bud?
Yeah, just backtracking to divorce a little bit. We've spent a lot of time talking about the initial conversation, how to get your foot in the door. And Tim, you mentioned as far as the financing, you know, if they're going through it, whether you, regardless of the training you've done and you haven't done, the things you're going to be offering when you get in that conversation are very similar to probate. The estate sale company, the clean out crew, the contractor. The one thing you mentioned, Tim, that's a little bit different is the mortgage broker that'll finance someone. I remembered something else from the one call I was on with Liz that I thought was pretty brilliant that nobody else will do. If you know they have school-age kids, show up at the appointment with some rentals or some available properties available in the same school district. Nobody else is taking the time or the effort to do something like that. If there's a concern about, you know, I don't want to sell until my kids graduate from high school, or if they say we need to sell, and they're concerned about their kids relocating. That was one thing Liz mentioned. So my point being, the core list is very similar, but there's some add-ons for divorce that you can start working on right away, or just have in the back of your mind when you get in front of people.
For sure, that's the case. And you brought up something else that's really interesting too, that we always encourage you to build relationships with attorneys, and certainly building relationships with family attorneys in regard to building your divorce practice is probably as or even more critical than it is in probate, because in a divorce situation, that is a factor in every divorce. If there's property that's owned, what's going to happen to that property? And if you potentially become the go-to point of reference for an attorney who can flip stuff to you as a real estate agent, or an investor, if it's something that needs to happen quickly, you know, the same views may apply. One or the other of them could have been the breadwinner, and by themselves, neither of them can afford it. So that's kind of an important situation to deal with. The other thing is that, and Alyssa made this point, Jim, is that splitting up the property is often something that gets harder and harder and harder to do. And our friend at Fair Split, David, is a person that can help in that process. And we've talked a bit, we're not going to deal with that now, but it's fairsplit.com, I think, that you can go to that, and he can help mediate that process as well. And that's yet another piece of your apparatus that you can bring to play when people are trying to divide up property. The challenge with that is often, you know, finding out what's really important. And he's a master at doing that, to the point that in some cases in his local jurisdiction, the judge will specify in a divorce case that they use him to divide up the property. And that's important to go do. So building that relationship with that attorney is important. Last thing I'll say about why it's important is this. every jurisdiction is different and the laws of the states are different. And in some states, the disposition of that property and children in particular, as it pertains to that, even if it's common, sometimes it's law, sometimes it's just what normally happens, they may or may not specify that the property has to get sold or doesn't have to get sold based on the age of minor children living in the home. And in some cases, the law in the state will provide that the house doesn't have to be sold and that the custodial parent doesn't have to move until that happens. So there are things that you need to be aware of in your local jurisdiction when you're dealing with that. Yes, sir, Bruce.
I am so sorry. I've got to go to the mastery class. I know there are a couple of other questions, but I do want to say I've seen some purchases come through that your names and emails have not made it to my list yet. So if you bought on the ATL platform under ATL All the Leads training, make sure you email support@probatemastery.com so that we can get you your access to the class. Sorry to interrupt. That was a complete derail.
No, not a problem. That's fine. I appreciate you doing that. And again, if you haven't done mastery, get over here and go do that. It's important to go do it. And we appreciate you being there. And we are at 2:00 on the hour. And I believe we've concluded another good call here. We had some good things on it. Jimmy?
All right. Well, we're going to have a hard time deciding on our winner of the week, but I wanted to thank each and every one of you for being here. I want to particularly thank Andy and Evan, our candidates for winner of the week. They both had great stories. Also thank TJ and Robin and Evan for actively participating, as well as my fellow coaches. And I want to challenge each of you, take one idea that inspired you on this call, go out and put it into practice, and please come back next Thursday and share the results with the group. Have a great week, everybody. Same time next Thursday. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.